In our lives, we wear so many hats, right? We're defined by our jobs, our families, our hobbies. But what if the most important part of who you are, your core identity, is something deeper? Well, today, we're going to dive into a kind of blueprint for a life built on courage and real, lasting hope, all based on 4 timeless characteristics from Scripture. So let me just ask you straight up, what is your most essential identity? When you strip everything else away, all the roles you play, all the labels, who are you really? It's a huge question, but the texts we're looking at today offer a pretty powerful answer.
And that answer is this idea of being a person of God. Now, this isn't just some fancy title. It's a whole way of being, a way of life that's defined by a few key qualities. So what are they? Let's jump into the first one, which is all about courage.
Okay, first up, courage. And for this, we're looking at maybe the most famous underdog story of all time, David and Goliath. It's the classic tale, right? Facing a terrifying, absolutely impossible-looking challenge.
Now, obviously, we're not out here fighting 9-foot giants with swords. But we all have our own Goliaths, don't we? Those huge, overwhelming problems. Those intimidating obstacles that just fill you with fear and make you feel totally powerless.
What's so amazing about this story is that it shows us 2 completely different ways to face a giant. On one hand, you've got the world's approach. That's all about what you can see: armor, weapons, human strength. That's what everyone else was focused on, and frankly, they were terrified. But David's approach? It was completely different. His focus wasn't on what he had, but on who was with him.
You see, David's courage wasn't about not being scared, it was about redirecting his faith. And this is the absolute heart of it. A person of God faces their giants not with their own strength, but with a courage that's completely rooted in their trust in God's power. And that conviction, it leads us straight into our second characteristic.
So the second quality is living with what we're calling a priestly mission. Now, I know that might sound a little formal, maybe a little intimidating, but the idea here, which we get from the Apostle Paul, is really just about living with a deep and profound sense of purpose.
For Paul, his work wasn't just a job. It wasn't even a career. He saw his entire life, everything he did, as a sacred duty, something holy. His mission wasn't about his own success. It was all about serving other people and bringing them closer to God.
Just look at how Paul talks about his mission here. He calls it a priestly duty, but the goal isn't for himself. It's so that others might become this offering acceptable to God. It completely frames his entire life as an act of service with this incredible divine purpose.
And this isn't just for him. It has a huge application for us too. It means a person of God understands that their life has a purpose way beyond just their own personal happiness or success. It's about living for something much, much bigger. It's about serving others and being a part of what God is doing in the world.
Okay, this third characteristic, this one might be the toughest, but it's also one of the most real and profound. It asks a hard question. Where do you find hope when you are just overwhelmed by sorrow? The Book of Lamentations gives us a brutally honest look at this.
And let's be super clear about this. This identity, being a person of God, is not a get-out-of-jail-free card for pain. The source material is very upfront about this. Even someone with the deepest faith can walk through seasons of what feels like completely unbearable hardship and grief.
Listen to how raw this is. You can feel the anguish. The prophet Jeremiah is describing a sorrow so deep it's physical. His eyes are failing, his heart is literally poured out on the ground. This is the language of total and complete devastation.
So that brings us to the breaking point, to the critical question. When you are in that place, in a moment of what feels like absolute despair, what can you possibly do? Where do you even go from there?
The way forward, according to this, isn't about ignoring the pain. Not at all. It's about moving through it. And it starts with just honestly acknowledging the sorrow. Then, right from that place of pain, crying out to God. And finally, looking ahead, holding on to the hope that one day restoration will come. This shows us that real hope isn't the absence of tears. It's the act of looking towards God through our tears.
And that idea of finding hope in the middle of suffering leads us perfectly to our final characteristic, joy. But this is not the kind of temporary happiness the world talks about. The joy we see in Psalm 33 is something way deeper, something much more resilient.
It's so important to get the difference here. Happiness, it usually depends on our circumstances, right? It comes and it goes. But the joy we're talking about here is different.
It's unshakable because its source isn't our situation. It's the unchanging, steady character of God himself. And notice, the psalmist here gives it as a command, a call to action. Rejoice in the Lord. It's not just a feeling that might wash over us. It's a deliberate choice we make to find our delight and our praise in God, no matter what's happening around us.
And this is why it's so foundational. This kind of joy, it's like the engine that sustains a person through everything else. It's what fuels the courage to face your giants. It's what energizes your mission to serve other people, and it gives you the strength to find hope even when you're crying. It's the anchor.
So let's just pull it all together really quickly. We've got these 4 pillars of this identity: courage, mission, hope, and joy. Each one is rooted in faith, and each one points us to a specific way of living. So if you're going to take anything away from this, let it be these 4 actions. Face your giants with faith, not with your own strength. Live a life that has a mission bigger than just yourself. Find a way to hold on to hope, even in the darkest times. And every single day, actively choose to find your joy in God.
And that really brings us to our final question, the one that turns this whole thing back to you. As you think about these 4 qualities, courage, mission, hope, and joy, how is your life, right now, today, reflecting them? Something to think about.